Guys, I live in China for about 7 years already, and I've noticed one thing, that there are many foreigners who live here and they kind of study the language, but they don't speak it. They study it for years and years and years, but their spoken abilities are like still pretty low. And when we start to kind of decompose what is wrong, what do they do to improve their language speaking abilities, we come to the conclusion that they just don't speak. And most of the time they don't speak because, well, they feel cringe. They think that their spoken Chinese is horrible, that people will laugh at them. Well, you know all of this. If you click on this video, probably you had the same feeling somewhere in your language learning journey, maybe even now. And I got lucky enough to work as a teacher for the last almost 10 years. And well, I have some examples of my students finally cracking this barrier, let's say so, and starting to improve their speech a lot faster. That's basically because they successfully conquered the fear of speaking in a foreign language. And yeah, here today I'm gonna share some tips that helped me and helped my students to overcome this fear. So stay tuned. Well, first of all, a couple of thoughts about why it's happening. I don't know where you're from, but right now I live in China, just like I mentioned, and I've noticed that people here grow up in a very competitive environment. I think you've heard a lot about this. And since the early childhood, they have this mantra from the parents that you need to be the best, you need to be better than others. So basically, parents push their kids to perfection, to do their homework in a perfect way, to perform at work in a perfect way, to be number one, and to have like very rich career opportunities and bright future, let's say so. I suppose everyone who grew up in conservative families went through this, but in China you can kind of multiply it x10. And you see sometimes local colleges and training centers for adults, they invite me to host language corners, even though I'm Russian, but I'm a professional linguist. And almost every time I come to a new language corner and get to know with all the new students, I find out the same common thing, that all of them, they're just afraid to speak. They may have pretty good level of language. So basically they are writing essays, they are reading professional literature, but they cannot speak because they just freeze. Yeah, we all know this feeling. And they freeze because, you see, they were so scared of making any mistakes in their life. So right now they kind of still feel that if they do not deliver the perfect result, they shouldn't even try. And I understand that in many areas of life that's maybe good, but in language learning, perfection just shoots you in the leg and kills your gains. Yeah. So during my experience, I found out that we can differentiate the people with high level of language and highly effective language users, because you'll be surprised, but very often these people are not the same people. So just like I said, I knew many students who could read professional literature, but when it comes to using the language in the real life environment, they were very ineffective language users. But I have another example. Here in China, once I met one girl. Her Chinese was, I think, around HSK 1 or HSK 2. Probably she never even learned Chinese in the first place. But at that time, my Chinese was like HSK 3 level. And you see, I had this fear of talking with people because I always thought that they're gonna laugh at me or I will just end up in embarrassing situations. But that girl seems like she was like socially fearless. She would go to Chinese people and she would use a very like limited vocabulary to express her ideas. She would do a lot of very vivid gestures and just throw lots of words and lots of small phrases into a native speaker. And you see, native speaker, first they would freeze in surprise, but then they would kind of start to smile, and eventually they understood what she was talking about. And that happened every time, while I was just saying one sentence and trying to formulate it in the best way possible to be grammatically correct, because I thought that these will let people understand what I want to say. Actually, when she was just throwing a bunch of these words into the native speaker, they understood her a lot better, because with these words, she would give them a lot more context to understand what she wants to say. While through my sentence, sometimes it was just not enough context, and sometimes I would just mispronounce some things. So I noticed that she was a lot more effective language user than I was. And so here, guys, we come to the following conclusion. Speaking a foreign language is about communication and not performance. So basically, if other person understood you, then we can say that it was a communicative success. And it doesn't matter if it sounded weird or not. If another person understood you well, that's a success. But you will probably say, I still don't want to be embarrassed in public. And yeah, I will talk about embarrassment a little bit later. But first, I would love to mention one example. Probably you've heard about this example from books like Atomic Habits. Yeah, but let me mention it really quick one more time. So basically, there was a photography professor called Jerry Welsman at the University of Florida. And on the first day of their photography classes, he split his photography students in two groups. And these two groups had absolutely different tasks. First group was judged, their final subject mark would depend on the quality of the pictures they make. So basically they should really learn all aspects of photography to produce the best quality pictures, and only the quality of pictures will be judged. While another group was told that they will be graded solely on the number of photos they produced. So for example, they had to produce 100 photos, and if they produce 80 photos, that will be C, 90 is B, and 100 is A. And when at the end of the semester the professor reviewed all photos from both groups, he found out that the majority of high quality photos came from the quantity group, not from the quality group. And so yeah, through this experiment, this professor found out that really quality beats quantity, and quality can bring you a lot better results, because basically these students, through the quantity of their photos, they were able to experiment a lot more and find best shots a lot faster and easier than people who were only focused on the quality of their photos. So, and I think this is very much applicable to language learning. If you really want to develop your speaking skills and develop your language, it's the question of quantity of your study than just quality of your study. Of course, you can combine them, but you cannot get rid of the quantity aspect and expect good results. If you want good and fast results, you need to do a lot of quantity, a lot of work. Basically, you need to grind. So yeah, that's another takeaway from this video. Quantity beats the quality in language learning. And so how can we apply it to speaking? Basically, for those people who live in a foreign country and are just afraid to talk with their neighbors and afraid to talk with other people, there is one hack that I used with myself and with my students. And basically, you should focus on the number of people that you need to talk with today. And these can be very simple encounters, like you can come to a person on the street and ask how to go to the library or to the supermarket. Or you can go to a bookstore and ask stupid questions about Harry Potter, like I did. Or if you live in China, go to tea shops. These people are amazing. Tea masters are, I think, the best language partners ever. So yeah, you can go there and just talk with them for hours and enjoy nice tea. And going back to the question about embarrassment. So yeah, probably you still don't want to go out and be embarrassed by making mistakes in public. I must tell you that when you get embarrassed somewhere in such kind of situations where you need to speak with people outside of your comfort zone, this stays in your memory a lot better than just sitting and studying by yourself or talking with yourself. So you can kind of embrace and love the embarrassment. I have one story that I can tell you. It's kind of dumb, but still, I think it illustrates the whole concept really well. Once my friend called me to go with them to the bar to celebrate someone's birthday. And we went there and we had a lot of stuff, and it was very crowded. There was no place to sit. And I found one table and there was one very drunk guy. So I asked him if I can sit there. He was Chinese, so at that time my Chinese level was not very good. So basically we put all our stuff at that table and I sat there just to drink beer and watch my friends dancing. And so eventually this guy turned to me and he asked me, 你好, 朋友. Well, I said 你好. Then he said, 我可以摸你吗? I had no idea what he was saying, and I just said, sorry, okay, You know this like stupid thing when somebody tells you don't understand, you just say, yes, yes. So he repeated the question, 我可以摸你吗? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. And then he just grabbed my ass. That was a very unforgettable experience, I must say. And basically that was the day when I learned that the word摸means touch. And yeah, I still remember it to this day. So you see, these kind of situations, they stay in your memory for a lot longer. So you should not worry about getting into these kind of weird situations or embarrassing situations. That will definitely put these new words or new phrases or encounters with native speakers and words that they used in your long-term memory, for sure. So another takeaway from this video is don't be afraid to get embarrassed while talking with native speakers. And you see, very often we look at pretty successful people in any area. Let's say you want to start a business. What separates you from a very successful businessman? Actually, it's the amount of mistake he made along the way. This person tried many times until it started to work. Well, in many cases. And so you can imagine it as some sort of a track. So basically you are in the beginning and this super successful businessman is here. And between you is 100 mistakes that a successful businessman already made. And basically to get there, you just need to do the same 100 mistakes. And yeah, I think if you look at the problem like this, you will be more willing to do these mistakes faster, right? Alright guys, basically that's all I wanted to tell you today, and yeah, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about all of this. I'm not a very professional YouTuber, I'm still getting used to do all of this stuff. So yeah, leave a comment in the comment section below and let me know how you overcame the fear of speaking a foreign language, or if you still struggle with it. Thanks, and see you in another video. Bye.